Sports 56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Wolo.
Look up on the wall. There on the wall. Under the bottle. Behind the door.
Good Tuesday morning. What a gorgeous day in Memphis. Enjoy, because the heat's coming. Heat's coming big time at the end of the week. Low moisture, humidity's gorgeous. It's just great out there. It is fantastic. Go and enjoy today if you get a chance to. Bobby Hurley said no. Now, I told you that was going to happen. I mean, it's really simple. He would have said yes in L.A. When you got to think about it, there's something just not right with the deal. Although it was $6.7 million per year. When he signed his new deal after winning his first championship in 23, I believe he signed a 8-year, $32 million deal. So that's $4 million a year. And this one was, 6 years, $70 million. It was an $11.7 million deal. 11.7. So almost triple the money in those 6 years. So I don't know what it was. Maybe so enticing to go for 3 in a row. That hasn't been done since Wooden in 50 years ago. Maybe that's the enticement. Maybe $4 million is enough. Maybe he's going to get a nice little bump from UConn. I would suspect that's why he didn't tell L.A. no when he was there. I'm sure he went back and he said, look, they're offering me 70. I don't really want to go, but you got to sweeten it. I'm not saying you got to get to 11.7, but get me to 6 or at least 5, right? So he's there. I believe he's preseason number 5. So he's got a shot at winning 3 in a row. And that would be quite significant for sure. And it doesn't mean this is the end of his dream of becoming an NBA coach. He could still do that in the long term. And by the way, the money is not going to get any worse. If indeed that $76 billion new TV deal is going to really happen, where each team gets the league gets $6.9 billion per year, 2.5 times what they're making now, there's going to be plenty of money available. Because don't forget, 47% goes to the owner, 53% goes to the players. So there'll be money for coaches to get more bread, and he will probably be able to equal that, particularly if he continues to win on tour. I've got to thank my friend Dave Wells. If you don't know who he is, he's a longtime golf historian. His father was over to the old Mid-South Coliseum. And Dave Wells sent me this since we're on the topic of money because it kind of blew me away. So yesterday, you'll remember I said, Scotty Scheffler, he has played in 8 tournaments this year. He's won 5, but he's finished high in all the others. So in 8 tournaments, the guy has won $24 million. If I do my math correctly, that is $3 million every time he's played in a tournament, right? Our own Dr. Kerry Middlecoff. Zach, do you remember him?
The name sounds familiar.
Memphis guy. He was a dentist. His dad was a dentist. This is in the late 40s. He played 1948 to 1961. Okay? You really should know him because he's an important historical figure in Memphis sports. Dr. Kerry Middlecoff, who ended up in his late years basically holding court at Memphis Country Club. He's a delightful guy. He actually was the very first television analyst. I believe it was for CBS Sports. So Dr. Kerry Milkoff was the first guy. He sort of invented the role that others have taken, like Johnny Miller did. I think Miller's still the best that ever did it. That, now Trevor Immelman has. That they've had many great ones, that's for sure. But he was the very first guy. But the thing about Dr. Kerry Middlecoff is, besides inventing the role of analyst on TV for golf, he won 40 tournaments. That, by the way, is number 10 all time on the wins lists. He won 40 PGA Tour events, including 3 major championships. Do you know what his total prize money is, according to David Wells, for playing from 48 to 61, 40 wins, 3 majors? You know how much he made? Lifetime earnings.
That's like $500,000.
$299,000.
Yeah.
So think of this. Each week that Scotty Scheffler has played, each week, he's made more than 10 times the amount of money than Kerry Middlecoff, with 40 wins and 3 majors, made in his career.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's unbelievable money. Thank you for that, David Wells. David Wells, by the way, I think he wrote me today. I got to double check this. He's a phenomenal golfer. He really is. He loves the sport. Let me make sure I get this right, because I think he is he's in his 80s now. I think he's he scored his age 250 or 270 times. That is quite the accomplishment. Good for you, and thanks for the info. So that was pretty impressive. We got a College World Series, and it is what I said it would be: SEC ACC showdown. Our friend Tim Doolin had 5 SEC teams in. He didn't get it. He got 4, and I'm kind of glad, because it went 4-4, the SEC and the ACC, although it's not exactly SEC ACC showdown. 2 of the games will be, and it could end up a lot of that. But two of the opening games will be conference brethren. So the first game is going to be Virginia and North Carolina, so that's all ACC, followed by Florida State and Tennessee. So there you got ACC versus the SEC, unless, of course, Florida State joins the SEC. It can't happen this year, but it probably will. And then you've got the next day, I think that's on the 14th of June. And the 15th, you've got another cross-section, NC State, which, by the way, went into Georgia and took 2 out of 3 in the Super Regional. They will play Kentucky. So there's SEC versus ACC, and then you got an all-SEC, Florida against A&M. And then, winners go to the winners bracket, losers go to the losers bracket, the way they do all of that stuff. So everything is all set, and you got 4 and 4. So, that worked out actually very, very nicely. You got it all. The NBA draft 3 weeks away, and I still hear a lot of discussion. And all the mocks that I've seen, they all say Dalton Connect. And I know, Zach Boyd, you do a lot of work with the Grizz. I don't quite understand this Dalton Connect thing. You don't need another wing. You need a big. Now, if you were to get rid of a couple of wings to get a center, I get it. But if Filipowski, the Duke big, is available at 9, and most Macs say he will be, or Zach Edey. I know there are plenty, including our own Eli Savoy, that don't think he can defend in the NBA. But wouldn't you want to take a center over another wing? Really and truly, look at the bigs that play in these in these playoff games, in these semifinals. And you go, okay, these are good, solid players. Memphis has great guard play. They got nice wings. They don't have any bigs except for Jaren Jackson Jr., and he doesn't really want to be an inside guy. You've got to get a screen setter, rebounder, rugged dude, the way Steven Adams was. I don't understand the infatuation with getting another wing unless you are trading away some of the principal wings, like Kennard, who's a big price tag.
Yeah,
if you did that, I could see it. But I would go position here over what you assume might be great talent. And I have my doubts about Dalton Connect on a regular basis in that league. I'm not saying he's going to be a total bust, but I'm not sure he's going to be a star. And you don't need another wing. You need a center.
I agree with you. I mean, to some extent, I agree with you. I think with the draft, because again, like the Grizzlies on paper, we can say on paper the Grizzlies are a better team than being ninth in this upcoming draft. Now, obviously, given certain situations, you could be picking up in the lottery if you trade for a first-round pick, and that team is bad. But in a every year situation, the Grizzlies are not going to pick in a lottery. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, take the best player available. Now, if that best player available ends up being a big, cool, I'm fine with that. But we can't. But we can't sit here and say, oh, we gotta be locked in on a big when the best player available is the guard.
All right, so let me ask you straight out. If Dalton Connect is available at 9, all mocks say he will be.
Yeah.
And so is Filipowski. Who's the better player?
I right now I would say Dalton. Right now, because the thing is that, and I use the example of the Boston Celtics. Funny enough, they're in the finals. The Celtics, they had the number 1 pick in that Jason Tatum draft, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
They traded out of that pick with the 76ers, and the Sixers took Markelle Fultz, which was one, he was obviously, to a lot of people, was number 1 player in the draft, but then 2, he was a need for the 76ers.
Right.
And Tatum fell to number 3 because Lonzo and his dad got him to the Lakers. Same way with Jaylen Brown the year after. Like Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram were 1-2. Jaylen Brown fell to number 3. Not to say that he's I could say that he's the better player of those two, but like with Jason Tatum on the board, not to say that you're going to get a superstar player at 9, but you don't want to just settle on a need because you know that you got to fill this position. I think you can go get a veteran and fill this position, whether they trade back or...
If it was Jaylen Brown, if it was a great player at 9, I would say yes. There is not going to be a for sure fire great player that I know of. Could turn out that way, but as we look at it, there's not a surefire great player at 9. And you can't tell me that you in my mind, that Dalton Connect is a surefire guy over Filipowski.
I look at this draft as a draft of role players, not necessarily like who's going to be the great player in 5 to 7 years. I'm looking at this draft as who can give me a baseline role, like shooting the ball, playing solid defense, moving the ball around. And I think, in my eyes, Connect can do that because, one, he can shoot the ball. He shot the ball at a high clip
He did.
at Tennessee. And 2, he has the size. So, okay, like on the defensive side of things, we need to see more, maybe just a little bit more. But, he has the body type to say, okay, you can go out and you probably could defend a wing player of your size, at least stay in front. But the biggest thing is he shot the ball like 40% from 3. And for a lot of teams, that translates. I mean, it's the same way.
But Luke Kennard is going to play that role.
But that's if Luke is still here.
Unless you trade him. Now, that's a whole different story. But you don't need Dalton Knecht when you've got Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard, by the way, hasn't really played with the full team yet. We know he can shoot 40% from three in the NBA. You don't know that Dalton Knecht can do that. But there is a price tag to Kennard. I understand. That's why you paid him, because you know he can shoot threes. We shall see more discussion on that as time goes on. A couple of quick notes, because we got Joe Denk standing by. We'll get to him right after the break. I don't know if you're watching the NHL playoffs, and I can't wait to ask Joe a little bit about their ratings. The NHL playoffs are fantastic. There's just such intensity in each shift that each of these teams will throw out these players. Last night, though, Florida was just so darn dominant. They were so good. They fell behind 1-0 early, and then they dominated the whole game after that. In the first game, they won that, but Edmonton outshot them big time. Not in this game. In this game, at one time, the shots were 22-7. It was crazy. Florida totally controlled. We haven't had a game in Edmonton yet. I wonder if this has captured America's fancy, because it's the first time I can remember that both the NBA and the NHL are on the same over-the-air network, ABC. So it's really interesting to look at all of those ratings. And then, lastly, before we take a quick timeout, Charles Baker, the president of the NCAA, spoke for the first time, gave an interview since the judgment came down and they came up with the idea of settling and paying the players the $2.7 billion and giving players 22% of the revenue. Now, of course, that has to be decided upon by a judge to be the correct way to go. No judgment on that yet. But Becker made a good point. He said, I know this will put financial stress on a lot of schools and that there could be big changes that are coming. But at least with this settlement, if it goes through, we've gotten that out of the way and schools can make a plan. And he's right about that. At least you'll know what your future is. And if you have to cut administration, sports administration, or cut sports or whatever it may be to survive, at least you're going to get your ducks in a row sooner rather than later. Because if they had not made this settlement, there would have been other suits. It would have dragged on for years. Nobody would have known. But there's still so much up in the air. So much is up in the air because once the judge accepts the terms, now you got to find out the guidelines. Where does Title IX come in all of this? Will there be a combination with NIL money? Lots to still be decided, but at least he finally got up and spoke. We may ask our man Joe Denk lots of things to talk about, including the Caitlin Clark snub, the new Liberty Bowl date, the NBA ratings, and comparing that with the NHL. I don't know if we got College World Series ratings. We may talk a little bit about that next week. But our guy from 24 and 30, the former general manager of both those stations and longtime sports producer on television, Joe Denk's going to join us on the business of sports. We begin a new segment this week. Ron Higgins moves to Thursdays, and Mike Keith, the voice of the Tennessee Titans, will join us on the Titans and on the NFL. He will be in Jackson. He's on a tour. They're doing some sort of panel discussions on stadium expansion, the new stadium, and what's going on there. They're in Jackson, Tennessee today. We'll get an update from him on all of that and what new head coach Brian Callahan is like, and their newest running back, a guy, what's his name? Oh, it's Tony Pollard. Looking forward to chatting with him about all of that. We got to take a break first. We'll let you know. We're sitting in the Family Leisure Studios, and don't forget, it is summer. It is party time. So what do they have? They have a summer party a sale. Don't they always have a way to figure out a sale? And this is a good one with 24-foot above ground pools at under $2,000. Select patio furniture. You're not going to hear this often. 50% off. Play gyms. What kid doesn't want one of those? They got those for $1,000 off. Make sure you get them installed. Patio umbrellas, 20% off. It's summer. It's going to be hot. You want to be outside. The best way to do it is to go check the family party sale at Family Leisure, I-40 and Whidden Road. When we come back to East Memphis, we go. Really, Cordova. Our friend Joe Denk is standing by, and he's right around the corner.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Getaway Sports Talk. Best kept secret in town. Open noon to 1:30 a.m. 7 days a week. Garden created this SEC NFL Dream Bar over 20 years ago. You'll never miss a minute of action. 10 TVs, 5 70-inch TVs for all the big games. Come up on 6 pool tables. Just here in town. Pool swimming, get you some bar. Chicken tenders. Daily happy hour Monday through Friday, 1 to 6 p.m. On Metro 625 Getaway Sports Bar, 2632 Winchester.
There are many real estate companies out there, but then there's Banyan Tree Realtors on the Tigerville Town Square. There are hands-on, family-owned boutique real estate companies whose agents have been offering exceptional attention to their clients for over 40 years. In an ever-changing world, Banyan Tree continues to maintain a small-town personal charm while providing a worldwide connection through its internet marketing presence. Personal service will never go out of style at Banyan Tree Realtors. Their agents are people you can trust, offering service you deserve. From residential homes to commercial properties, farmland, land lots, and historical houses, Banyan Tree has the expertise you can rely on. So if you're downsizing, upsizing, moving in, or moving on, give Banyan Tree Realtors a call today. Craig Smith and Mary Jean Smith and their agents are ready to serve you. Call today at 901-620-8920 or 901-359-2520.
That's the sound of steak searing in its juices on your new pellet grill. You heard that right. The Weber Searwood Pellet Grill can smoke low and slow at 180 degrees, all the way to a high heat sear at 600. With the Weber Searwood, you can cook on the direct flame over the full grade sear zone. You'll hear the gasp of amazement from friends and family when you serve the food. Cooking with the Weber Searwood Pellet Grill just sounds delicious and tastes even better.
Locally owned and operated for over 40 years, Automatic Gates Construction tailors custom gate solutions for all your residential, commercial, and industrial needs, including repairs, maintenance, and installation. Automatic Gates Construction specializes in designing and installing automatic gates and fencing that seamlessly blends security, functionality, and aesthetic appeal. Elevate the safety and efficiency of your property with a premium gate solution. Automatic Gates Construction at myautomaticgates.com.
Welcome in. Cruising through our Tuesday. Love this segment. Joe Dank's going to join us in a minute. He's brought to you by Memphis Public Links. They got so much going on right now, all kinds of championships. They got the OP9. That'll be coming your way this weekend, where it's a parent and child scramble. There's some great players in this, and Overton Park is just so much fun to play. In July, you got the Memphis Amateur Championship. You, of course, got the City Championship coming. Everything looks so good. Don't forget August 1st, the brand new sensational Audubon with a 6-hole kids course, short course to really learn the game. That's going to open up. Pine Hill's got its brand new clubhouse all done. Everything's really cruising. It's a great summer for golf, and so far Memphis City Golf has lived up to the deal, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow with our friend Mickey Barker when he joins us on Golf Picks. In the meantime, Joe Dank, our expert on the business of sports and television and ratings and everything else, joins us now. Lot ado this week about Caitlin Clark, the greatest women's collegiate player in history, was left off the 2024 Paris Olympics women's USA basketball team. A lot of people up in arms. I, for one, am not, but I'd love your take on it.
Well, how about if we call her what she really is, and that is the greatest single draw in the history of women's basketball.
That's fair.
Because
I think that's fair.
Been proven again and again and again through TV ratings and attendance. And just mystifying to me and many others, as I'm sure we read and followed over the course of the weekend, that they would leave her off of that team when the opportunity to continue to capitalize on the numbers of eyeballs that she has brought to the women's sport in the past, really 2 years now, going back to that NCAA tournament last year. So, just a missed opportunity. I think that's all it is. I think it deflates any interest in the U.S. women's basketball team from a TV rating standpoint. I'll ask you this question: How many USA women's team basketball Caitlin Clark jerseys do you think would have been sold in the coming month and a half had she been on that team and her face been on those endless NBC promos?
I don't know. Probably a fair share, but no, but wait. If this team wins and Brianna Stewart is the star, or if somebody on another team is the star, if Diana Taurasi at 42 in her 6th Olympic Games, which is pretty historic, and she's won a gold medal every time, if she's an important part of this, especially at her age, would she sell more jerseys? Here's my point. This reminds me a little bit of Christian Laettner, which in 92, I think it was, they put him on the Dream Team. He was the greatest collegiate player at the time. He was going pro. They had the Dream Team, and they put him on there. They put him on there ceremoniously. He was never going to play because he wasn't good enough except for mop-up duty. He had no chance of being a major factor in the outcome of the games. I ask you this, Joe, and I love Caitlin Clark. I'm a fan. Is she one of the best 12 players in the WNBA? And I would have to say I don't believe she is.
Well, statistically, she's top 15 in everything. So
on a terrible team,
there's a huge.
And by the way, top 15 in turnovers too.
Well, that's fine. Look, and she's the only player in the league who gets double and triple teamed length of the floor every single game from the tip. That's not an excuse, but that's an explanation for the high turnovers. Listen, there's no equivalency to Christian Laettner. That was the first year that they allowed pros, and they put a token college player on that team. Clark is not a college player. She's a competitive player who scored 30 points Friday night and drew 20,000 people to a sold-out arena in Washington, D.C., and won a professional basketball game.
Who had 10 points last night, turnovers galore, and didn't play the fourth quarter.
NBC Sports is in the middle of a $7.65 billion rights fee to carry the Olympic Games. They have sold $1.2 billion of advertising for these upcoming games this summer. Do you think anybody at NBC Sports was saying, yeah, it's a good idea not to put the most marketable athlete in America today on this Olympic team?
Here, I will agree with you there. I think every NBC person is mad. They're upset. Right. I agree with you on that one. To me, still, the most important thing is winning. And by the way, the USA team hasn't lost since 1992. She hasn't played in a single Olympic game.
Right. And to your point earlier, they've won 7 straight gold medals. Brianna Stewart has played in multiple of those. So has Diana Taurasi.
She's played in 6 of them.
Exactly. And how many Diana Taurasi jerseys have been sold over the course of those 6 Olympic Games? And it would not equal what would have happened this weekend if Caitlin Clark would have been selected. These are just. This is just an interesting decision for a group of people who talk about things like pay equity and closing the gap and doing all of the things. Well, the things necessary to approach those kinds of issues is to continue to draw eyeballs. There's 2 things you can do in trying to develop the sport: draw more people to buy tickets to be in the stands, and to buy and to get people to watch on television, and that creates value for the people who can affect the revenues of the sport, which is the rights fees payers and the sponsors. And Both of those constituencies are ignored by the decision to leave her off. Simple as that.
I would say this to you: if the women's team is in the medal round and they're playing those games, they're going to draw the same numbers as they would with Caitlin on the team because she's not going to play. They're going to still draw the same. No, that's what I think. But here's what I also think, Joe, and I'll bet you a lunch on it. I'll bet you she's there because somebody's not going to make it. There's already a couple of players that are injured and questionable. She'll be the fill-in. She's going to come. She's not going to play much.
We'll have to wait and see. None of that will change what happened this weekend, however.
No, you know what? It's the most amazing thing. I've never seen anything like it. This woman, who is really a gift to the game, is the most divisive, polarizing figure. We've got racial stuff going on, jealousy stuff going on. Now half the people don't think she should have been on the team and she got really snubbed. Guys like me say, I think you should take the 12 best because you want to win. It's just amazing. Somebody who is as really nice as she seems to be, as charismatic to watch, she's so divisive. It's crazy.
Well, it's a great story. It's a once-in-a-lifetime story, and it's been a once-in-a-lifetime event. And it's unfortunate, because I don't disagree, but it's very unfortunate that the word divisive can be entered into this conversation.
Yeah, it's because she doesn't deserve that. It's just the way it has worked out.
That's right.
But believe me, she's going to be okay. In the long run, she is going to do just fine. Liberty Bowl date release. We had Steve Arrott on yesterday. He goes, we like Friday night. And there's a lot of competition on the 31st now, and the NFL playoffs are involved, and there's other playoffs. The collegiate playoffs are involved. He's happy with it. I know you've dissected through this. What's your take?
Yeah, so look, I think it's interesting. I mean, that is a good evening. It's a Friday night. It is awfully close. It's just 2 days after Christmas, as we all know. You can't do anything about that, but it is a Friday night. When that game is on ESPN, it'll be the only college football game being played on that Friday night. ESPN actually is showing 4 games that day, starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. There's a 2:30 game that leads into our Liberty Bowl here, and the Las Vegas Bowl follows it up. Now, there is one thing in looking at the schedule, and if you were to say, wouldn't it have been nice if you could have gotten this, and that is on New Year's Eve, there is a 2 o'clock in the afternoon window. The game is on ABC, and it's going to be the Citrus Bowl from Orlando, and I think that would have been a really nice spot for the Liberty Bowl to be on New Year's Eve in the afternoon, dumps the crowd into the New Year's Eve party scene here in Memphis following the game, and it's an ABC window, and we know the difference between ABC and cable channels
Right.
all of the time with all the other sports. So that would have been just a really neat one. I think if you could have said pick anything, you might have picked that one. Second best, maybe.
Yeah.
Friday night all by yourself.
I'm in kind of an agreement with you because it had become a tradition, New Year's Eve, right?
Yep. It's a great thing to have, I think, a New Year's Eve game in Memphis.
Yeah. What is your gut feel? ABC and ESPN, and who is it now that just got involved? Was it? I think it might be Time Warner.
Yeah, TNT.
TNT that are getting involved in the playoffs. What do you think, gut feel, television wise, interest wise, what that will do to all of these bowl games, other than the Cotton, the Fiesta, the Rose, the Sugar? Okay, we know those are going to be really solid, and they're being used for the playoffs part of the time anyway. What do you think this does to bowl games like the Citrus Bowl, the Liberty Bowl, the Nashville Music City Bowl, any of those middle rung bowls? And I give Memphis a lot of credit because the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, it's a true bowl game. It's a true experience for the players, from going to the rodeo to the luncheon to the gala it's a true bowl experience, unlike the Dallas Responder Bowl, where I think they have a luncheon and that's about it. It's a made for ESPN bowl owned by the network, and there's no tradition, history, or really care about the experience other than being a programming event.
Well, look, as we know, the Liberty Bowl, to your point, 66 years, the seventh oldest bowl game, and it truly has deep roots in this community. So many of the other games, the ones that you mentioned, simply were they're owned by and made for ESPN. They're TV shows. They're not live events. They happen to be played in different cities, but they are a TV show, and it creates that entire bowl week and that bowl period of time. You know, this year's bowl season is going to start earlier than normal. I mean, the first bowl games will be played on Saturday, December 14th, with the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta, the Camellia Bowl in Birmingham. That's the day of the traditional Army-Navy game, and the Army-Navy game is no longer the only college football game being played that day. You know, Army-Navy always played the week after the conference championship game.
So
Now all of a sudden we have bowl games.
That's the Birmingham Bowl is doing that? Because that was always after January.
I know. So, you know, the first games are December 14th. You talked about the traditional New Year's Six bowls. Those 6 games will be the quarterfinals and the semis. So that's interesting. There will be impact, I believe, though it won't reduce the pool because, you know, you're still going to take the same number of teams. You're going to have those with 12. With 12 teams making it, that's no different than the 12 teams that used to make the New Year's Six.
Right.
But so 12 teams now come and play, but there's those 4 games of the first round of the playoffs. One of them will be played on Friday, December 20th. The other 3 on Saturday, December 21. And, you know, as we guessed it a couple of weeks ago, the TNT games are going to be the 2 Saturday afternoon games on December 21, and that's opposite NFL games. The Friday and Saturday night games will be on ESPN. But so it's just interesting, and you have to believe the impact of the expanded playoffs does not in any way enhance any of the remaining bowls. You just wonder what impact negatively they might have. And it continues to be tougher all of the time. And, and we do have those other elements that have sneaked into this, and that is how many guys opt out of those games, and that's been a challenge in some cases. And what, if any, impact there might even be from an NIL standpoint about bowl participation. And a lot of people in the bowl game business are hoping that the schools and the New Deal and the collectives make participation in the postseason part of an NIL deal so that the players can't, in essence, hold up the bowl game once they get assigned.
It's a long-term contract for at least one season. Anyway, NBA Finals. 2 games in the books. How are the ratings going on that? And they better be going good because the NBA apparently is going to get about 2.5 times the television money out of ESPN, ABC, and out of NBC, I believe, and Amazon. It's incredible. It's almost $7 billion per year. $76 billion. What are these ratings like?
So, got out of the gate slowly on Game 1 in the NBA. Just under 11 million people watched the game on ABC. That's the 3rd lowest Game 1 ever.
Wow.
And it was down 5% from last year's Game 1. Now, I will say that game was not in any way helped by about an 8 or a 10-day window between the end of the conference finals and that game. The NBA all but went out of everybody's levels of interest. Game 2 bounced back a little bit. I mean, it's the highest Game 2 since 2019, plus 1% versus last year. They did just over 12 million. So, these are still numbers that are off from the heyday or from, the mid, say, 2015 through 2018, some of those, and the Warriors run, and finals games were more in the 14 to 18 million range. So we're down now to 10 to 12. And
what were those numbers again in the Warriors heyday, or even let's go back to the Bulls and Michael Jordan era?
Oh, those are much bigger. I mean, that's a whole different. That's a completely different thing. The whole game has been reinvented since then. But so that all of these things continue to erode. But on a year-to-year basis now, they have a chance at least. But again, you can really get hurt. Think of this: the conference finals, Dave, were way off, and as a result, the NBA playoffs pre-finals on all of ESPN, ABC, the Turner Network, and even NBA TV, the playoffs were down 13%, and what really killed that was the conference finals. And we only had 9 conference finals games out of a potential 14. And we always know games 6s and 7s really inflate the ratings because those are the highly rated ones. So the NBA took a hit this year with that, and then those short conference finals hurt going into this finals. And I'll tell you what, I mean, we better get a Game 3 in favor of Dallas, or these ratings will not recover from because there's no time to recover. Yeah. You get 4 or 5 games, and you'll never get there because you need a 6 and 7 to drive the number.
The ABC family of stations is also doing hockey, pretty much same time slots, Stanley Cup Finals between Edmonton and Florida. What are those numbers like?
So Game 1 played Saturday night, 3.1 million fans. Watched the game on ABC, and that's plus 13% versus last year. So they're up. They're up accordingly. Now, remember, this year it's on ABC. Last year, the Stanley Cup Finals were on TNT, so you have that built-in advantage of broader distribution and better access for the average fan to get to the game. But plus 13% in this environment is awfully good. Here's an interesting statistic, though, too, and you think about it. I mean, we're playing an NHL Stanley Cup Finals in the Miami area, between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, right? Imagine that. In Canada, the game did 7.1 million fans, which is plus 43% versus last year, because last year there was not a Canadian team involved. On a larger basis, the 2024 NHL playoffs on ESPN, all of the games coming into the finals are up 26%, and they average just under 1.5 million viewers per telecast. So there's a plus story on the NHL. The numbers are still relatively small.
Yeah,
they're not the
they're
numbers.
A third of the NBA.
Exactly. So the numbers are very small, but they're getting bigger. And it's such a tough thing. And you get such strange regional things sometimes. Like, I mean, you're reading and it says Florida's playing Edmonton, and you could give the average sports fan 3 guesses as to what the sport is, and some percentage of the sports fans would not come out with hockey, right?
Well, those folks don't remember Wayne Gretzky, obviously, if they don't know the Edmonton Oilers. But there's plenty of those. I understand.
You understand my point.
Yeah.
I think you just made my point, because that's true. There are people who don't.
Yeah. Joe, we're out of time. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. And we'll do this again next week.
Thanks, David.
You got it. That's Joe Dank, our general manager, brought to you by Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. A big decision. You're going to build, or maybe you're going to renovate with innovation. All the new modern amenities in your older home. Let me tell you about Ken. 3rd generation. William is now in the business, and the job is never done. That's how they look at it. They build a house. 6 months later, something's wrong. They're going to make sure it was right from the beginning. They go right back with it. They work with architects, 70 years, more than that, really, of expertise with 3 generations. Go to kengarland.com, see what I'm talking about, and then call Ken. He's great to talk to. Sees little details, big picture all at once. Ken Garland, 751-1632. We pause for a second. When we come back, we'll be joined by the voice of the Tennessee Titans on the NFL. It's Mike Keith. He's next.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Summer's heating up, and so are the savings at Choate's. We've got 3 incredible offers to make your season spectacular. First up, our Grill and Chill with Choate's Summer Special. Upgrade your HVAC system and choose between a free Yeti cooler or a Green Egg grill on select systems. Then power through any outage with Choate's generators. Be one of the first 50 customers to buy a generator and score a massive 75-inch TV or an iPad. Also, don't forget about our tankless water heater offer. Purchase a tankless water heater from Choate's and receive a premium toilet free. Don't wait. These offers are too good to last. Turn to the experts with Choate's and call 347-8086 or visit us online today for your free estimate. Now introducing Choate's air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and generators. Choate's, let our family serve your family.
Do you know one of the best things you can do for your employees or family's health? Provide Arctic Clear bottled water. Arctic Clear bottled water is your locally owned and operated bottled water provider. Arctic Clear is 100% natural spring water with free delivery and setup, dependable service, and no long-term contracts. What an easy choice. Call Jeff Manus today, 901-382-2363, or visit arctic-clear.com. Arctic Clear bottled water. Call now, 382-2363. That's 382-2363.
Guns, guns, and more guns. Over 700 firearms in stock. Home defense guns, old guns, new guns, used guns, big guns, little guns. Every gun you can think of, Classic Arms has them. All brands like Glock, SIG, Colt, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Browning, Beretta, Benelli, Remington, Winchester, and more. Guaranteed lowest prices in town. Only gun importer in the Mid-South. Free gun inspections and appraisals and free bore sighting for the upcoming deer season. Shop online at ClassicArmsOfMemphis.com or visit Classic Arms at 1740 Germantown Parkway behind Quirky's Barbecue in Cordova.
Back to Wolo and friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshyn.
Well, it's always football season in this neck of the woods for sure, especially in the NFL, and we are so lucky to get a guy like Mike Keith. And I go back a long way with Mike when he was in Knoxville. He's a young man, no longer a young man, long-time voice, I think the only voice of the Tennessee Titans on a educational mission, you could say, on tour in Jackson, leading a panel discussion on really the brand new palace that you guys are building, the new stadium. Good morning. What's going on?
Good morning, David. New Nissan Stadium is what we're talking about with the Jackson Chamber of Commerce today. So very excited to be here and providing some details and some context about what's going to go on the grounds of our current Nissan Stadium, as right now there is a massive hole in one of the parking lots where they're starting to put down the steel for new Nissan Stadium, which will be ready in 2027.
So they're doing this like a lot of the new stadiums. I remember the old Comiskey Stadium in Chicago.
Right.
Knocked down, that became the parking lot, and the new stadium was where the parking lot used to be. So this is a fairly common deal. When it's all said and done, what is the cost of the new Nissan?
$2.1 billion with a B.
Gosh.
The state of Tennessee has kicked in $500 million. Metro Nashville is kicking in, I think, $790 million, something like that. $760 million. And then the Titans are kicking in $840 million.
So that would be the Adams family that is kicking in that money?
Yes.
Wow.
That is correct.
That is good to see. Actual owner kicking in some money.
Well, the other part of it, too, which I think is a big deal, Dave, is the fact that the $760 that will be, part of the funding for Metro does not come from the taxpayers. The original stadium, our current Nissan Stadium, is funded by taxpayers. And that was, how you get a team to move to your city.
Sure.
This deal is being funded by sales tax revenue that will be generated on the property of the stadium. And remember, the Titans gave back, I think it was roughly 70 acres to Metro. And so what is now Nissan Stadium will be housing, will be businesses, it'll be part of a community. So all the sales tax that takes place in the new Nissan Stadium will be a part of paying it off, as well as will a 1% hotel motel increase.
Right. So basically,
it's a better deal for Nashville.
Yeah, it's an entertainment zone where
right.
the taxes from there go to pay off everything, and then in future years it keeps on bringing in a revenue stream, which is a beautiful thing. What are some of the perks? I mean, Nissan's not a bad football stadium. It's really not that old. But we know, look, they're going to redo FedEx Forum, and that thing is only 20-something years old. And the cost of redoing it is going to be double what the original cost was to build it, which is just crazy. But there are new amenities. What will we get in the new Nissan that we don't have now?
Well, it's funny you'd say that because we wanted to redo Nissan Stadium. That was our plan because our location is so fantastic that we said, hey, we want to stay right downtown. It was going to cost double what they thought to do that because many of the materials that were used to make it are no longer made.
Wow.
So at that point they said, well, what if we did a new stadium with a roof? That's the number one amenity. What if we did it in a way that the seats are on average 38% closer to the field? What if we did it in a way that acoustically it will make it one of the best concert venues in the country? You know, and all of these things and all of the experiences, like right now at Nissan Stadium, you get about 4 different experiences. You buy a ticket, and you're in the lower level or the upper level. You've got club seats, and you've got suites, and then you have a loge. In the new place, you'll have about 18 different things that you can do in terms of experience. You can get a PSL for $3,000. Roughly 40% of all tickets come with a PSL of $3,000.
That's a seat license for those that don't know. That's your right to buy the tickets. It should all be figured in. Yeah.
But it's not. That's not bad in today's world.
No.
And Amy Adams Strunk said, I want places where people can come and have tickets. Now, if you want the Jerry Jones field level suite, you can get that too in new Nissan Stadium. You can do a $75,000 down payment on a license. You know, I mean, there are opulent things that some businesses, you know, will want to take advantage of and already have, Dave. It's been remarkable what has already been purchased because people know that these venues come with these things where you can do the uber entertaining. But if you just want to buy a ticket, it's not going to be that bad, and you're going to get a better view than what you get in Nissan Stadium. And the other thing, too, is you're covered.
Yeah.
And we have never been able to grow grass at Nissan Stadium consistently because of the different climate that we're in and where the field sits. Because, as you know, it gets really, really hot through October, and then you get into November, and we can fall off a cliff.
Right.
You know, December is our coldest month of the year. So having the roof is amenity one, and I'm pretty excited about that.
You've been to every one of these stadiums multiple times. What do you think is the best stadium, and will Nissan be like that?
So the interesting note that you have there is there's one stadium I have not been to, and that's in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And our stadium is almost a carbon copy of Las Vegas.
Huh.
So we're excited about that. I love SoFi in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's something else, but it's not enough of a football stadium for me. You know, it's big and it's made for everything, and it's got another dimension, and it's fantastic. But I like Minnesota and what they've done. You know, they were one of the first, if not the first, with the translucent roof technology, like what we'll have.
Yeah.
So you feel like you're outside, even though you're covered.
How does
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you mentioned Jerry Jones's field suites, which to really understand, I think you have to be there.
Right.
How does that compare with? Because I've been to AT&T, for the Cotton Bowl. We did.
Yeah.
Worked in that. That's a tough press box. You got to use the jumbotron to really call part of the game. But how will that compare to AT&T?
Our stadium, in terms of our stadium,
Yeah.
Not nearly as big. We're going to seat about 62,000. The league wanted us to go 55,000. That's what their new mark is for stadiums. And we said, I can't do that. We're dropping from like 68, 69 to 62. Because in essence, what's changed over the business of all of this in our time doing it, Dave, is that people really don't buy upper deck seats like they once did. People want something more closer, because with the development of high definition television
and big screens
a lot of the upper deck viewers now stay at home and watch on an 85-inch screen.
Sure.
And so it's about, and you have kids about my kids' age too.
30s, early 30s,
late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
One of the things it's going to have from like Jerry World is it's going to have one of those decks where the people come and they pay a standing room only fee, and they eat the good food and they drink the craft beer and they get on their phones, and the technology in this building will be incredible because everybody goes crazy on their phones. And then the hardcore fans watch the whole game, but my son, who's not much of a football fan, will go and be with his friends and eat the good food and drink the craft beer and hang out, but then they'll watch the last 4 minutes of the game. And that sounds counterintuitive, but all of those people come to a football game now because it's a happening. And so you have to have a venue that offers, as I mentioned earlier, 18 different experiences. The guy who's going to come and bite his fingernails off because he is so incredibly into it, he's going to have a place in new Nissan Stadium, and my son will also have a place in new Nissan Stadium, which is where the world has gone.
There you go. And you could get a Final Four out of all this, and it is really very exciting for the city of Nashville. So I am excited to have you on. I know you're going to do this on a regular basis, this time slot come football season. We hope to entice you on a whole bunch before then on this Tuesday slot, because we never talked about Brian Callahan. Oh, there's a new running back you guys now have, I think is a terrific guy. And by the way,
I've heard of it.
His family has a great barbecue shop. You got Tony Pollard. We haven't talked about him and how he and Tyjae Spears may work out really well. And there's league issues we could talk about. All of a sudden, wide receivers are going to make a whole lot of money. We'll get into that in the coming weeks. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it.
David, when I'm on with you next Tuesday,
yeah,
I will have been to the Pollard's barbecue shop, and we can discuss.
I love it.
Spoiler alert.
Great. You can tell me what to get. Terrific. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate
All right.
you. Bye-bye.
See you, Dave.
That's the voice of the Tennessee Titans on the road in Jackson. That is the great Mike Keith. That is really good stuff. And here's the thing that impressed me the most. Very simple. The Adams family, I guess it's now Adams Strunk. Do you hear how much that ownership is putting toward the new stadium? $870 million. Robert Pera, it's time for you to put up some money too. The Adams family, $870 million. That'll do it for us. Fox News is next.